Oh, I love that lime cucumber. It's crisp and fresh. You know, the other Gatorade flavors are fine. I like the blue flavor, Frost. It's just the orange and the lemon tastes too sweet to me. And this doesn't. It has kind of a crisp taste, like the blue flavors do. Just my 2 cents. Property rights. I talked about it before. I'll talk about it again. Property rights mean more than your house. Property rights are essential to what's called self-determination. And I've talked about it before, but I'm going to talk about it again because as we come back from my hiatus, I felt our previous shows were getting off the subject. We're delving down the path that Fox News and CNN do. They just talk about what's popular and they just complain about things. I want to talk about foundational issues to what makes a conservative, not just a Republican. Because Republicans stand aside and compromise all the time. That's the hallmark of these Republicans. That's why people call them Republicans in name only. No, that's the Republican Party. It's conservatives that are the smaller group. And conservatives really base their foundation principles on the Constitution and something that is called inherent rights, rights that you're born with. And people forget about these things because they're not really spelled out in the Constitution, but it's inherent. The right of self-defense in the Second Amendment, the right of freedom of speech, which also includes the free expression of ideas in whatever form is available to them. These are things that our framers of our Constitution believed in. And at the time when they wrote the Constitution, they assumed that people would know this when they wrote it. The Constitution is written at a high school level. It's not difficult to read. It means what it says. But there were certain things in the Constitution which are accepted as universal truths, such as the right of freedom of speech doesn't just mean government can't stop you. It means also you have a right to express yourself, and we're tolerant of those, of ideas that we don't necessarily agree with, religions that we don't necessarily agree with. That's the right of church and state. We're all allowed to believe in our own way as long as you don't injure someone else's rights. And this is what the left has capitalized on. The Americans' lack of knowledge and lack of basic understanding of what a constitutional right actually means. Property rights mean more than just about your house or about something you own. It's also the right of self-determination to determine what you want to do with that property, how you want to use it, how you want to express yourself with it. This is why I don't like housing associations, HOAs. It's just petty dictatorships. I deliberately moved into an area which did not have a strong HOA. Just had a moderate one, you know, to keep the parks clear, which is where the kids play. Not many. We have parks in our neighborhood. You know, I live in a tract of homes like everybody else. I'm a working class American. And we have parks. And the HOA keeps them clean. You know, they send a guy around to trim the trees and bushes, keep them watered, keep the sprinklers running, etc., etc. You never see any kids anymore. When I was a kid, these parks were full of kids playing soccer, baseball, football. You never see them anymore. Everyone's locked up in their home with their cell phone, with their Instagram up in their room. It's damaging your intelligence, kids. Get out of the house. You know, one of the things I did, my friend, I hadn't seen him in 30 years. He has 5 kids. I sent him for Christmas a Nerf football. I said, you ever play Nerf football with your kids? No. I said, we used to play Nerf football as kids all the time. We used to always get together a game. A whole bunch of us, and we'd go to the park and play. We did it almost every weekend. Why don't you do it with your kids? Well, maybe I'm right. I said, here's a Nerf football. Merry Christmas. Now you can do it. And you can't even get a Nerf football the way I did. They now have like spirals and crap on it. Whatever. I'm off the subject. You have a right to do whatever it is that you want to do with your life. You have a right to defend that life. You have a right to live in a home in whatever shape or manner or you see fit. And having a right to do something doesn't mean government has to provide it for you. Because they're constantly saying, well, you have a right to a home, so government has to give you a government loan. Government has to provide money. Government has to make it possible for banks to loan you a bad credit risk money so you can buy a home. No, they don't. Government doesn't buy my guns. I have a right to keep a gun. How come you don't buy my gun? Oh, we can't do that. They pick and they choose what constitutional rights they feel like going after next. But all of all of it, is essential to one thing: property rights. The right of self-determination. The right of a Fifth and Sixth Amendment, a speedy trial. That's your right of self-determination too. You have a right to make your case in front of people in a fair manner and not wait years for a hearing, to be incarcerated. You have a right to bailment unless you're a threat to society. There are all these things that are built into our Constitution, but all revolve around the right of self-determination, the right to live your life as you see fit, the right to build a city or a town. You don't have that right anymore. Most of the land west of the Mississippi is owned by the government, and they're not letting you on. They're not even letting you into the national parks anymore. Well, it's not safe for you to go. The roads are not clear. Well, I know. It's the wilderness. That's on me. If I drive in a national park and I drive off a cliff because the road is washed out, that's on me. Not you, the government, not society. Society doesn't have a right to tell me I can't go where I want to go. Not on public land, that's for sure. Only you do. Only the individual does. You can't go on my property, I build a fence. No trespassing. This is America. This is the thing that we lose sight of every day, and why we vote for Democrats, why we vote for liberals, why we vote for leftists, why we allow illegal immigration. Why do we allow immigration? We're constantly relying on the Border Patrol. Nonsense. Our laws prevent people from going in mass, forming a militia, and defending our borders. Did you know that? You can't get a bunch of people together with guns and go down there and enforce the law. Why couldn't you? Because it's a sacrifice of our constitutional rights, the right of self-defense, to defend your nation. You have a right to defend your nation. Government says you don't. Government says it's our job. We're going to provide the police. We're going to provide the National Guard. We're not allowed to defend the borders. That's illegal. We'll lock you up. They'll lock me up, but they won't lock up the illegal alien. This is how upside down our society is, because we have foregone our constitutional rights of self-determination. This is the principle upon which conservatism was found. The right of the individual. The right of the individual rights over that of the groupthink, over government, over the bureaucrat, over the pencil pusher, over the paper pusher who does nothing but push papers from one end of an office to another and tells people what to do, like Dr. Fauci. There are even unelected bureaucrats, like Bill Gates, who's taken it upon himself to create vaccines, who never worked a day in his life in a biological lab. He's the one we're using as an authority on vaccines. We're putting people in lab coats in charge. We're putting people with clipboards in charge instead of taking things into our own hands, our own rights, our own individuality. This is what we do. This is what we live with. These are the things that we've sacrificed ourselves for the perceived notion that somehow, somewhere, a guy with a piece of paper and a degree knows more than we do. It's utter nonsense. We're out of time. Hope you enjoyed today's show. I'm getting out more and more content as we go forward. I will get back to 5 hours a week, I promise. But I've run out of time for today. Take care, folks. Have a good one.